Good evening, everyone, and thank you so very much for being here. My name is Victoria L. Williams, and I am Chair of the State Public Affairs Committee for the Junior Leagues of New Jersey. SPAC is the nonpartisan advocacy voice of the Junior Leagues across our great state, bringing together members from all 8 leagues to educate, advocate, and engage around public policy issues impacting women, children, and families. We partner closely with elected officials and community leaders to raise awareness, support meaningful legislation, and drive action at the state level. On behalf of the Junior Leagues of New Jersey, I bring greetings. Welcome to tonight's community and educational conversation on safety, awareness, and human trafficking. This initiative reflects the Junior League's priorities and what we do best, bringing people together to serve with intention, care, and impact. As New Jersey prepares to host events connected to the 2026 FIFA World Cup, as well as the final match, we recognize that moments of global attention require thoughtful planning around health, safety, and preparedness. Tonight's conversation is not about alarm, it's about awareness, collaboration, and empowerment. We are honored to be joined by leaders in state government, law enforcement, and transportation who will share how New Jersey has prepared for large-scale events in the past, how communities can stay informed and safe, and how collaboration plays a critical role in prevention and protection. SPAC has been in the forefront in New Jersey for advocacy for nearly 55 years, helping to shape policies that protect and strengthen our communities. From child safety laws to women's health protections and anti-stalking legislation. Our work on human trafficking is also longstanding. Since 2010, SPAC has supported efforts to raise awareness and strengthen protections for survivors. New Jersey is now recognized as a leader in this space with strong laws and continued advocacy, including the designation of January as Human Trafficking Prevention Month. New Jersey now has one of the strongest anti-human trafficking laws in the country, criminalizing the knowing recruitment, harboring, or transportation of individuals for exploitation. Human trafficking is often a downstream outcome of systemic vulnerabilities, including the foster care system. As far back as the 1990s, efforts to support young women, particularly those experiencing housing instability, highlighted early warning signs of exploitation. The founding of the New Jersey Coalition Against Human Trafficking in 2010, initially as a Super Bowl initiative, has evolved into a leading voice on this issue. Founding leaders of the coalition are current members of the Junior League. Tonight builds upon that legacy. Together, through education, advocacy, and action, we can ensure that New Jersey remains informed, prepared, and committed to protecting all members of the community. Through this effort, SPAC is keeping to the mission, our mission, which is to advance women's leadership for meaningful community impact through volunteer action and collaboration and training. Thank you, and let's begin. To submit questions for consideration, please put them in the Q&A featured during the webinar. The session will be recorded for educational and community outreach purposes. We will now hear from Cheryl Bear, my vice chair, who will introduce our panelists.
Thank you. Assemblyman Joseph Danielson has represented New Jersey's 17th legislative district since 2014 and currently serves as the chair of the Assembly Public Safety and Preparedness Committee. A graduate of Rutgers University, he is the founder of Network Blade LLC, a computer consulting service, and serves as the executive director at the Franklin Township Sewage Authority. As part of his lifelong commitment to service, the Assemblyman is a longtime volunteer firefighter. Assemblyman Danielson has focused his legislative work on public safety, affordability, veteran services, and property tax relief. He has played a key role in major initiatives, including cannabis legislation, retail theft reform, and clean energy efforts. Deeply committed to community service, he leads initiatives such as food drives, job fairs, and programs supporting seniors, veterans, and local families. Welcome and thank you. Um, so,
Thank
um,
you.
thanks. Senator Anthony Bucco cannot be here tonight, but his Chief of Staff, Kiara Garcia, is thankfully here, and we're in very good hands with her. But I'm going to read his bio. Senator Anthony Bucco is a lifelong Morris County resident who has served in the New Jersey Senate since 2019 and currently serves as the Senate Republican leader. He has previously served in the General Assembly from 2010 to 2019, including as Republican conference leader. As an attorney and partner at Murphy McKeon, Senator Bucco specializes in local government law. He earned his undergraduate degree from Lycoming College and his law school degree from Seton Hall Law School. Senator Bucco has a long-standing commitment to public service, including work with substance abuse prevention through DATOP and the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, as well as decades of service with the Boonton Volunteer Fire Department, where he served as captain. He and his wife reside in Boonton and have 6 children and grandchildren. But I would like to welcome Kiara Garcia, so perhaps you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Kiara Garcia. I'm Senator Bucco's Chief of Staff. I've been working with the Senator for about a year, and I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. So moving forward, Derek Waters, who's here tonight, is Chief Executive Officer of Coach USA, one of North America's leading transportation providers. With more than 30 years of experience in transportation and logistics, he has led complex, high-volume operations with a steadfast focus on safety, operational excellence, and infrastructure leadership. Appointed CEO in 2023, after joining as Chief Operating Officer in 2021, Mr. Waters had strengthened enterprise performance and strategic growth across the organization. Effective November 2025, he was appointed to the Board of Directors of the American Bus Association. He also serves the U.S. Department of Transportation Human Trafficking Advisory Board, advancing public safety nationwide. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. And also, we're very happy to welcome Chief Andrew Caggiano, who began his career with the Montville Township Police Department in 1997, serving in the Patrol Division, Detective Bureau, and Administration. He was sworn in as Montville Township's 9th Police Chief in January 2019. Chief Caggiano holds a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice from John Jay College of Criminal Justice and has completed the West Point Command and Leadership Program and the FBI National Academy. He currently serves as president of the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police and sits on the executive board of the Morris County Chiefs Association. He also served as president of the New Jersey chapter of the FBI National Academy Associates in 2024. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to turn it over to Victoria Williams, our chair, who will now lead the panel.
Thank you, Cheryl, very much, and welcome to all of our panelists. Tonight's webinar will be structured in 3 parts. First, a conversation with our elected officials. Second, insights from our leaders in law enforcement and transportation. And finally, a joint discussion bringing all of our panelists together. To start us off, I'd like to turn to our elected leaders who play a critical role in shaping the policies and frameworks that guide our state's preparedness and response efforts. So I'd like to start the discussion with Kiara to recognize the bipartisan legislation that the senator has been working on for quite some time. This is Bill S 3946, and it's led by Senator Angela McKnight at Legislative District 31, as well as Senator Bucco, co-sponsored by Senator Renee Burgess, Legislative District 28, and co-sponsors in the Assembly, Assemblywoman Reynolds Jackson, Legislative District 15, and Assemblywoman Carter in Legislative District 22. So true bipartisan legislation on in both houses. So I'd like to point out that this has been a long-standing piece of legislation that has been truly a collaboration with organizations such as the New Jersey Coalition Against Human Trafficking, as well as other organizations. A comprehensive and a thoughtful approach to addressing both sex and labor trafficking in New Jersey. It's balanced, it's forward-looking, it's policy-driven, it's law enforcement informed and survivor-centered. I'd like to just ask you, Kiara, if you could just give some remarks on some of this piece of legislation that truly is bipartisan.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as we all know, human trafficking is one of the most horrific crimes, people deal with. It strips people of their freedom, their dignity, their future. So that's why legislation like this is so important. I mean, first, it ensures we're no longer handling cases like these in silos. So by establishing coordinated response teams in every country, we're bringing law enforcement, healthcare professionals, and social services together to respond quickly and effectively. And then second, which is also super important, is it makes it clear that New Jersey will not tolerate this kind of crime. By eliminating the statute of limitations and strengthening penalties, we're sending a strong message that if you even attempt to engage in something despicable and heinous like this, you will be held accountable. And then one of the most important things that the bill does is it puts victims first. It ensures they receive the support and the services they need to rebuild their lives, because at the end of the day, it's about protecting the victims and making sure justice is never out of reach.
Great. Thank you for that perspective. And I really wanted to highlight that and just to really shout out our legislators in New Jersey, truly working in a bipartisan way on an issue that is so relevant and so important. So very grateful for your leadership, as well as the leadership of Senator McKnight and our representatives in the Assembly as well. I'd like to just move to you, Chair Danielson. As chair of the Assembly Public Safety and Preparedness Committee, what does preparedness truly mean for New Jersey as we prepare to host these events, the World Cup? And also for context, if you could just please share what the importance of your committee and how does it serve our state?
Oh, well, thank you. And now you have to forgive me on driving. So
Oh, and please
not
be
going to go off
careful.
a rent.
Speaking of safety, please be careful.
Yeah, I will. I'm hands-free. Yeah, so the Public Safety Preparedness Committee has got a pretty large scope. We oversee all the first responders, criminal justice reform, cybercrime, overall safety and security of the state. We overlook the state police, attorney general's office, local, county. We're all doing that, but we also have umbrella oversight over local and statewide events as it relates to the safety. And with that, we're always working on stuff, modifying our statutes to funding new programs and modifying, how New Jersey does business and modifying our communities within New Jersey.
Great. And then also from a state policy perspective, what proactive steps in New Jersey is New Jersey taking to prepare communities for these events, the increased public safety risks associated with large-scale events such as the World Cup?
Okay. Well, first of all, the leadership that's in charge of the security, they can only share so much with me. They can only share so much with my committee. And likewise, I can only share so much with you. So you'll have to excuse me for that reality.
And actually, we appreciate that. We appreciate that. We know that, and certainly that we have law enforcement on the line, that we know that we're in good hands, and absolutely. But thank you for that context.
Yeah, I'll just say this. Well, first of all, I'll underwrite this all with the comment: if you knew just the little amount that I knew, you would be in awe. You'd be your jaw would fall to the floor with how well we are prepared, the level of skill and experience that our Homeland Security has, that our state police has, and our local law enforcement. But to begin with, everything starts with funding because there's nothing for free, right? Uh, we've invested millions and millions of dollars into New Jersey already. Plus, now we have confirmed and committed federal funding for 2026, like we had in 2025 for the World Club Finals. So the funding's in place. So at the top, we have the Homeland Security and the state police. Above them are the federal agencies. Let's just say, pick one, the FBI's in charge. They're working coordination with probably half a dozen other three-letter agencies. And then below the state police, you'll have your county law enforcement and intelligence, your local law enforcement intelligence. You have agencies like Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, Port Authority. You also have the operation is not just New Jersey. It's really our entire country is now involved with what's happening inside New Jersey and including our U.S. territories. So they have to cast almost a global net. And it's not only information gathering, but they have a net that includes real-time information sharing, and a representative of everyone exists as a representative everywhere. Boy, I hope I didn't make that too broad.
No.
But
That's great. And then from what I understand, and correct me, please. My understanding is that the games are not just going to be held in New Jersey, right? There's 16 cities where these games are going to be held.
yeah,
11 of which I believe is in the United States, from Dallas, Houston, Miami, Atlanta, Jersey, New York, and so
it
on.
gets crazier than that. It's not only the game places, it's the practice places, the
Mm,
hotels, the transit channels, high value people, diplomats, politicians, the media, fan engagement events in areas, lawful and disorderly conduct. They have to look after drugs, human trafficking. They even have to look after our power grid. And the list goes on and on and on. I mean, how
wow.
fast do you want your head spinning?
I know. Yeah, it's kind of spinning right now. So we're gonna.
Then let's let's not forget our heroic law enforcement that have to endure a very lengthy blackout period. You're not allowed to go on vacation. You're not allowed to have personal days. You're not allowed to go away for training. You're not even allowed to be sick or die. All hands on deck, every level of government.
Well,
Then when you're all that, then they have to contend with the possibility of benevolent and malicious drones.
mm,
You know, everybody loves talking about drones. So they got a plan for everything. And they've been
well,
practicing. Well, they had their dress rehearsal last year. It went through very smoothly, not a hitch. And then they've been practicing from before last year's dress rehearsal. They've been practicing and training and coordinating all along. And they have systems set up for not only their entire, their private intranet, but they have an information campaign to modernize type of see something, say something, and they have an extremely robust, multi-leveled communication system that includes the public,
mhm.
and then the other envelopes of information that include the need to know to the right people in real time, everything in real time.
Well, thank you, Chair Danielson. That's actually a good segue to back to Kiara regarding the World Cup tracking to with all of the people coming into New Jersey and into the region. That the World Cup is tracking to be the biggest sporting event, even bigger than the Olympics, bringing an estimated $3 billion. Some reports are saying. what role does legislative leadership play in ensuring that New Jersey is aligned, coordinating much of what the Chair Danielson was saying, that proactive ability to prepare for these large scale events in terms of all of the money that's revenue that's pouring into the region?
Sure. I mean, obviously, the World Cup represents an incredible opportunity for New Jersey, but with that opportunity becomes, a responsibility to be prepared. So that's where legislative leadership comes in. We need to make sure everybody's aligned across all kinds of agencies, coordinating with local, federal, in addressing these risks. And it does go back to kind of bipartisan, like we were talking about before, because obviously these issues are not partisan. They affect everybody, every kind of person. So it's important that we all coordinate, that we're all on the same page. So that's exactly why the senator has introduced legislation like 3946, because as we prepare for an event of this magnitude, those safeguards are more important than ever. So at the end of the day, it's about making sure New Jersey delivers, not just economically, but in public safety, preparedness, and leadership as well.
Great, great. And I think this is a great opportunity to now bring in our leaders in law enforcement and transportation to speak to some of these challenges, these risks that Chair Danielson brought up. So thank you for that perspective from the legislative side of things. So Chief Caggiano, I'd like to just ask you. You dually serve as president of the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police, as well as chief of police of Montville Township, right here in New Jersey, which sits less than 30 minutes from MetLife Stadium. How is law enforcement across our state preparing strategically and collaboratively to safeguard communities during this large scale event that we're about to experience?
Yeah, I'll just piggyback a little bit off of what the assemblyman said. This has been not a year-long preparation. This has been several years of preparation. Dating back before the games from last year, we were already involved with our federal partners, our state partners, our county and local, all collaborating to plan out these events and plan out and be prepared for all the different threats that we face in today's day and age. You bring up the assemblyman brought up the drones. That's a consideration. There's also these game sites, the practice facilities, the hotels where teams will be staying. But surrounding that all, you have thousands upon thousands of visitors from not only from the United States but from outside, from other countries. There's definitely been collaboration with law enforcement from these other countries that where teams are coming from. It's pretty amazing what New Jersey law enforcement has been able to do with preparing for these games and all the different threats that we have to contend with. The sites themselves are going to be incredibly secure, and I hope the public realizes exactly how much planning and foresight has gone into this. But as a local police chief, we also have to be concerned about where some of the pop-up parties are. Where other venues outside of the main stadiums decide to hold watch parties, and those are venues too that we as chiefs have to be concerned about and make sure that those venues are safe too. We may not know about them all. Some of these places may decide to hold an event a week before. So these are all things that I know in my jurisdiction we've actively reached out to our restaurants and bars and so forth and started asking those questions like, are you going to hold any special events for these games? Just so we're aware of what might transpire in our own municipalities. So it's really
That's
been incredible to watch and be part of.
and that's one thing that I think many of us are not necessarily keeping in mind, that we're focusing on the games, but you're raising an important point regarding the pop-up parties or the Fan Fest. We know about the Fan Fest. That was going to be in Liberty State Park, but now it's, I think, sort of decentralized to other areas. So various parties and events to be on alert from or about. And then when we talk about human trafficking from a 101 perspective, that we know that it involves fraud, force, coercion, manipulation to exploit another individual. If you could please, from your perspective, from law enforcement's perspective, highlight for our audience the definition of human trafficking, what are some of the indicators or related criminal activity that community members may encounter as it relates to human trafficking?
Yeah, especially around some of these large sporting events and so forth, we do see human trafficking in the form of prostitution, and the sex industry and so forth. So it's one that our officers are aware of. It's we look for signs of it. Just like you said, it's very basically defined as a crime involving recruitment, transportation, and harboring of individuals through force, fraud, and coercion. And the purpose is to exploit these people. You can see it in there's all sorts of different signs that you can look for when you start seeing juveniles involved in the sex industry. You look at that. Is a person disconnected? The person that's here, are they disconnected from family, friends, and their community? Is a person disoriented, confused, showing signs of mental abuse? You'll see people that have various bruises of various stages of healing. Some of these people will be fearful. They'll be timid. They'll be submissive. You also, some of these, you look at some of these victims and they'll show signs of having been denied food, water, sleep, basic medical care. And are these people in the company of someone who's, overbearing on them or not allowing or controlling the situation, not allowing them to, speak for themselves, or not allowing for them to, make decisions on their own? These are all signs that, people can look for. And, does a person appear to be coached? Are their answers very, upon asking questions, does it feel very scripted? They want the people who are, who are committing these crimes have this sense of control, and the victims feel that they're being controlled by these people, and they're fearful of them. So, they will give them very scripted answers to respond to people and so forth. So those are some of the things that we look for. Also, does a person have freedom of movement? Are they allowed to kind of come and go as they feel free to? When you start seeing all those type of things, that's when we start asking greater questions. But law enforcement itself is very much has to be victim centered on these kind of cases, and the victim's health and well-being is of the utmost importance to law enforcement. We'll make the case, the criminal case, but getting those victims to where they need to be, getting the victims the help they need, that's truly the number one goal for us.
And I appreciate hearing that, because so many times from what I've read and heard, that victims are very frightened and scared, and so it's comforting to hear the kind words from law enforcement, keeping the survivors, the victims' needs in the forefront. So thank you for that perspective. And I'd like to now move to Mr. Waters, CEO of Coach USA, and thank you, Mr. Waters, for being here. As CEO of Coach USA, how do you see transportation providers playing a role in promoting public safety, increasing awareness of human trafficking and exploitation risks, and supporting prevention efforts?
Victoria, first of all, thank you for having me. What I would say is it supports a lot of what the Assemblyman as well as the chief spoke about, is first it starts with training for us. The number one thing is to train your people and have them comfortable to be able to speak up if they see something, say something, as the Alderman spoke about earlier. We take our drivers to busting on the lookout, even before the law was in place for New Jersey. We've been doing it ever since 2021, I know for sure, because since I've been there, every employee that comes to work for us, we train them on how to identify human trafficking, especially during large events. We speak to them in reference to they have pocket cards that tell them the process. It's about having a clear process in the transportation business for your driver, your dispatcher, people working in your bus stations or any type of station to be able to identify and feel comfortable reaching out to tell someone. The first thing we teach our people, and really what transportation has to do is to teach their people there'll be no retaliation. I'd rather for you to be wrong 100 times and get it right once and to be able to protect that one individual from human trafficking than for you to sit back and say, well, I'm not sure and don't say anything. We're one of the few busing companies that have had that can say that we've identified human trafficking. We had a driver that did it in Ohio. And really what it boils down to doing the other pieces of the training that's important from a transportation standpoint to explain that if you do identify how to communicate it. And when I say that, I mean like if you're moving, and it'll be a little bit different for the World Cup and FIFA events because you'll be really in the cities. But if you're moving a group, you don't want to just pull over into a well-lit area and because they're going to panic. The traffickers are going to know what's going on. You know, what we teach our drivers is to say, hey, listen, we got an issue. I need to go out and check something with the bus, the tire, the brake, or something along those lines. We normally don't stop in a well-lit area. We stop somewhere so everybody's relaxed and think that something is truly taken along that path. And then that driver would call in the dispatch. All of our drivers also had the hotline number to human trafficking, which is 888-3737, 888. That number, but the thing that we teach our drivers is it's going to be hard for a victim, as like the individuals that's going through what the chief just described, to be able to have time because they're going to take the cell phone. They're not going to have that cell phone. So the driver, if you see something, you got to be able to report that. What we teach them to do is call back the dispatch or local law enforcement. And then we can help them from there to be able to manipulate it. That way they can get back on the bus, keep the bus moving, and then we can work to get law enforcement to the right place to be able to meet them. So it starts with training. That's the most important piece. I would say one of the biggest things for us at Coach USA, and I think with many of the transportation companies in New Jersey, from speaking with New Jersey Transit and the Port Authority, I think we all really started to practice in 2014 when the Super Bowl was at MetLife. So that was like the mini practice. And then you start to learn from the mistakes that was made there. I know that's some of the things we talked through with New Jersey Transit from where we had challenges at. We've worked very closely with them. We work closely with local law enforcement and state and law enforcement to be prepared. But again, from my seat, the most important thing is to make sure that all of our employees is properly trained and comfortable speaking up.
And with large scale events, and you mentioned 2014 with the Super Bowl, it requires coordination across public and private stakeholders. From your perspective, what does effective collaboration look like? So you talked about, working across agencies, law enforcement, making sure your workers are trained, policymakers, community organizations. So it really seems to be a whole of government, community partnership effort just to ensure that there's, a resilient travel environment.
Yeah, the biggest thing, what good planning looks like is really what it starts with. So planning ahead, and really the communication is in reference to, because no one group, not New Jersey Transit, not the Port Authority, not Coach USA or other private carriers can meet the demand that we're going to all be faced with. So we all have to know the plan. So it's about having the right communication. What routes are you going to be covering? What's the alternative route? As the chief mentioned, if he has to like something pops up somewhere and he has to shut a street down, what's the alternative route that I'm going to take those people on? The other piece is, what type of communication we're going to. We have people from foreign countries. Everybody that's going to come to the events are not going to be able to read English. Are we prepared for that? How are we going to communicate with them? How are we going to get them on the right bus to be able to make sure they get back to where they started at? How are we going to have the right color-coded parking lots and along with those lines to ensure they make it as simple as possible for them to be able to get the right communication, understand where they're going at, and to be able to move back and forth from one event to the other. What's the easiest mean of transportation for them? Because we're going to want to get them on large transportation vehicles, whether it's on the rail system or whether it is on the busing system. And of course, I'm looking for praying that they all want to get on the buses. But the deal behind it is we want them on large transportation because we know that if we get everybody in an Uber and a Lyft, it's going to clog up the streets, which is just, that's when the gridlock is going to take place. So really about having the right people, all hands on deck, as the Ultimate spoke about, is really what my team is preparing for as well. Even in private transportation, we're saying all hands on deck. We have all the parking lots that we've been assigned and have communication with the state that we'll be working to help move people to and from, and the routes that we have them on. They will all be manned by management people to be able to be there to help coordinate and get people on the buses as quickly as possible and to ensure people get on the right bus to be able to get back. So that's what I see from a collaboration standpoint, that we got the communication and that as much information that can be shared with the private sector is shared with us. I feel comfortable with where we are right now with the state agencies, with the information that's been shared with us, for us to be able to be prepared for it. And as we get closer, we have weekly, maybe still bi-weekly, supposed to go to weekly soon, but bi-weekly meetings with the state agencies that they take us through and what expectations are. And if something new comes out, if you get a new route or something assigned to you, how you prepare for it, you have to turn your plan in. So I feel comfortable where we sit right now. We just got to continue to work through it as we get closer to it.
That's great. And thank you. And then just Chief Caggiano, if you could just maybe add on how can law enforcement effectively partner with legislators and transportation providers and community organizations? So it sounds like, again, as Mr. Waters was pointing out in terms of his preparedness from his seat, how can law enforcement effectively partner with transportation providers and others?
Yeah, I think the communication that's occurring already, but the continued communication between us and transportation. If anyone's driven around the MetLife Stadium, it gets a little crowded over there during a regular event, never mind an event of this size. So, utilizing mass transit and being able to, Mr. Waters brought up an excellent point, which I brought up earlier, but think about where people are coming from. They're all these different countries, and we don't know who's going to be in the finals, right? So you might have two foreign countries that get into the finals, and there's not a lot of people who speak English from those countries. So that's going to be a challenge, and but thinking ahead on those things and working like side by side. It has to be side by side with transportation, whether it be trains, rails, subways from the city, PAP, Port Authority, all those agencies, and all the private transportation companies that will be participating or assisting in this is paramount to make this as smooth a transition as possible, especially knowing that area and so forth. So, but I'm sure we'll see the traffic all the way, 30 minutes from the stadium, but it's that partnership that's going to help make this smoother than anything else.
Mr. Waters, did you have another comment that you wanted to highlight?
No, I was just smiling when he said the traffic is going to be 30 minutes away. I'm thinking an hour, but I'll take 30 minutes.
I'm hoping.
Okay, great. Okay, so that completes our first and second round. I think there's an opportunity now to bring all of our panelists together to just have some cross communication and sort of tie in all of the points that that have been raised early on. So I guess my first question for Kiara, what policies or investments are most critical to ensuring long-term public safety infrastructure beyond a single global event?
Yeah, so I think public safety, whether long or short term, starts with sustained investment in law enforcement resources and emergency response capabilities. Law enforcement having everything they need to handle an event of this magnitude is so, so important. We also need to keep strengthening laws that address, evolving challenges like human trafficking, So we're staying ahead and not always reacting. We don't want to play catch up. We want to be ahead of the game. We want to be prepared. What we can't do is create barriers where cooperation should exist. We want to make sure on the local level, our law enforcement feels, prepared, and on a state level. And I mean, I think we can all agree that men and women in law enforcement do an excellent job of keeping, public safety, ensuring public safety. So, I mean, I think it's critical we listen to them on what's best. They know better than anybody, what we need, how we need to prepare.
Yeah. And so I know that, and actually Chair Danielson brought up early on, and I'll give you a chance to jump in on this. And I have another question for you, Mr. Chair, is that investment, as you pointed out, investing in law enforcement and investing in all of this. And I know that's always a challenge when we're, talking about money, budgets, and all of that. But I do appreciate hearing that there is that commitment, for investing and ensuring that we have. That all of our agencies have exactly what's needed to ensure our preparation for the World Cup and other large events. So, Chair Danielson, what role would you say that public awareness campaigns? I don't know if there's budgetary funding tied to this, but public awareness campaigns and education play in prevention, and how can policymakers ensure these efforts reach the public, especially those that are most vulnerable?
Well, we were already asked the questions, and they responded sufficiently on their public outreach agenda. And they have a multi-leveled, multi-discipline, multi-platform approach with a multi-million-dollar investment into it. Let's just remember, New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the country. We have the busiest airport, the busiest harbor and seagoing port. We have the busiest shipping port. We'll have the busiest sports complex and the highways, and our transit system will be, without question, number one, not only in America but American history. We have billions of dollars of private money invested in this. And we have at least hundreds of millions that came into New Jersey from the federal government just for these games. And we have not detected anyone that does not want this to be a total success. And public education, public prepping the public, warning the public, and communicating with them with a two-way communication from the public to just about any agency as it relates to our events. Let's also remember that while these World Cup final games are going on, we have the 250th national celebration going on in New York and the harbor in New Jersey. And the U.S. Navy, I could say this, U.S. Navy's press release noted that hundreds of Class A and Class B tall ships will be coming in starting, I think, July 3rd and leaving July 9th. All that's happening.
Wow.
So, this is just a great time to be alive. But, I don't think you're going to get anywhere in 30 minutes. Even if you're in your house.
Yeah. So mass transit, I guess, is obviously the way to go if we're trying to get to the games or near there.
At a minimum. Mass transit or parachute.
Yeah, I don't know how many of us have one of those. So, okay. So, thank you for that, Chair Danielson. And Chief Caggiano, if someone sees something concerning, what is the safest way to report it? So you talked about, some of the signs to look for earlier. If every ordinary New Jerseyans are out in the streets or at a restaurant or what have you, how does the community understand the best way to safely report something that they see something that's concerning? And what practical steps can residents take to stay informed, vigilant, and engage while remaining calm and confident?
Well, first, I think the public has to, I can assure you that law enforcement is up for this task. Law enforcement in New Jersey is, I like to say, the best in the country. So we are very, very ready for this and very ready to make sure this goes off successful. But your local police are usually your first ones you call, and whether it be you calling their main number or you call the 911, um, you know, never be afraid to call us. We would much rather go out and find out that what the person saw or thought they saw or whatever wasn't it wasn't a crime or wasn't something suspicious, then us not get the information. So, law enforcement stands ready to protect the public. We stand ready to handle any emergency that comes our way. So, really, if they see something, to say something, it's kind of a everyday household term at this point in our lives, but it really is the most important thing to do. If you see something, say something, call us, let us come out, let us make sure that those that you're calling about are safe, and we stand ready for those tasks, and we stand ready to protect the public throughout, not only today and tomorrow, but all throughout these games and the 250th as well. So we're here and we're ready, and you have some of the best trained police officers in the nation working right here in New Jersey.
And certainly it's very comforting to know, as Chair Danielson pointed out early on, that you have Homeland Security, you have the FBI, you have all of the agencies and local police, state police. So, things that we don't know about, and that's not something we should know about. We just know that it is working. And so, and I hopefully for our audience that they are going to walk away tonight feeling very comfortable with the interconnection and the interrelationship of all of the state agencies and government working together in concert just to ensure that we're all safe during this busy time. And Mr. Waters, with thousands of visitors expected for the World Cup, what strategic steps should transportation organizations take now to enhance preparedness, reinforce public confidence, and contribute to meaningful community protections?
The biggest things that we got to continue to do is the things we've already spoke about, and that's the communication part, to be sure that we got the messages clear that we're putting out to the public, and what we're going to be able to do, that our schedules are clear, that they're publicized, that people know when we're going to run. Because the schedules will change during the time of the World Cup versus what we run on a normal daily basis. The biggest piece is what we should be doing right now and what we are doing is making sure that our people are working on all those things and making sure that we're getting the message out, making sure that we're talking with New Jersey Transit and the Port Authority on like where are the pickup spots going to change, exactly where they're going to be. If they are, we need to update our websites. We need to update our communication that we have through any means for a person ready to buy a ticket for, to be able to catch our bus, or how did they get a transfer? That what's going to be different. So really the biggest thing for us is hundreds of thousands and millions of people, additional people on top of the ones we move on a daily basis are going to be there, is that we have the right communication with them, that they know what we're looking for. We know that when the high demand is going to be, what games have more people coming in. And so even when you get close, it's important that we know how many visitors and I know we won't know the exact number, but what countries had the largest number of people that have come in. So now you know what games most likely are going to have the highest population or the highest attendance going to. So do we need to adjust our schedules? Did we plan properly for the ones that we thought was going to be the most popular games? And to what was stated earlier, nobody knows who's going to be in the finals. You have feelings for what countries are the biggest soccer countries or football countries in the world. But if they're out, what happens to those individuals? Now, what becomes the next game that we need to have the best transportation and communication out for? So we have to be prepared to have the right communications already developed, and then understand like what order and what time we need to roll those out. But one of the biggest things we're doing right now is working on our schedules to be sure that they're updated and have the proper schedules in based off of what we know at this time.
Great, and that really highlights the importance of coordination, and that seems to be the common theme from everyone tonight. And I guess while I have all of you here, before we transition into Q&A, one last question: what lessons have been learned in your space in from past large scale events. I know we were highlighting the Super Bowl many years ago, but what lessons have been learned previously that are, I guess, more or less best practices and that will be able to help prepare for this current event? So we can start with Chief Caggiano. We'll start with you.
Sure.
Of course.
Every time we have one of these large scale events, whether it been the Super Bowl or last year's soccer event, there's always a review, right? We do it at the local level too. We always look at a review and say, what did we do good? What could we do better? And where do we move forward? And, you know, most often or not, it's communication is always the key. So, having this communication with all of our law enforcement partners, uh, private sector, public sector, and everybody who's involved in this, having that communication, making sure that we're all on the same page is paramount. So I always, every time I look at these events, I always look at, how well do we do on communication, and you can always do better. If you don't think you could do better, I challenge you, so we will do better, and we always do better. So we're excited for this. We're ready for this. And, from the legislature support with funding and the laws to, public safety to, transportation, we're all ready for this and excited for it. So, everybody should feel comfortable that the plans are in place and we're ready to go.
That's great. And Mr. Waters, lessons learned from last events where you've been heavily involved.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go back to last year's soccer event. When last year's soccer event, we had some streets that got shut down that we had originally been told that they were going to be open. And it goes back to that key word that starts with a C, communication. We was able to call the right law enforcement agencies along with city officials, and they was able to say, hey, here's what and they opened the street back up. It was like, hey, we can't move from the Port Authority where we're sitting right now. They've blocked the road. It's like we got hundreds of people waiting, and that was the original pickup. So it's really about the communication. Our lesson learned is don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call someone if something changes in the plan, communicate that it has changed, and then work together again as we've already done, because we've made contingency plans, and communicate so we can implement one of the contingency plans. And sometimes you need outside help, especially as a private carrier, to get those things put into place. So my lesson learned is don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask for help when you need it.
Great. And Chair Danielson, lessons learned from previous um, large scale events?
I honestly am not the right person to answer that. Um, it wasn't necessarily covered explicitly in my briefings, so
Mhm.
I don't want to speak out of school.
No, that's fine. Kira, was there anything that you wanted to add in this topic, and we can then move to Q&A?
Sure. I mean, I think I'm gonna echo what everybody else said. I think, communication and coordination is the big one. Keeping constituents informed if there's an issue, if it comes to like busing or transit, or, if we get notice from law enforcement, I think communication is key, making sure everybody is aware of the signs, and up to date on what's going on. And I think coordination between everyone at a state level, everyone with constituents. I think it's just communication is paramount here, making sure we're all on the same page and we all know what's going on.
Okay, great. So it looks like the chat is, or the Q&A is kind of very, very busy. So I'm gonna start with some of the questions that are in the Q&A. Um, is there a is there a schedule for the security based on coordination of the games? Is there a schedule for the security based on coordination of the games? I'm not sure how to interpret what that is. It's not anyone. Okay, we'll move on. What patterns, this is for law enforcement, what patterns does law enforcement look for that signal increased uh, trafficking activity during major events?
So some of it comes from reporting. We'll see an increase in reporting of some of these type of crimes. Law enforcement does take a little more active role in, working with, law enforcement not only within the state but outside the state, looking at, trends about some of these crimes and where some of these known offenders are coming in or, coming into our state. So there is coordination between us both on the state, in the state of New Jersey and other states as well on this issue.
And then are there culturally specific strategies for helping victims from different countries? I know that was what was pointed out, Mr. Waters pointed out regarding, signage or people coming from different countries. Um, are there strategies in place? I'm sure there's some, but what anyone can, want to jump in here in terms of strategies for helping victims from other countries.
Yeah, I think that's where like law enforcement itself is very diverse as well. And we have people who speak many different languages. And if that local municipality doesn't have someone who speaks, that particular foreign language, we all help each other. So whether it be us contacting the state police or the county sheriffs or our neighboring town who might have someone who speaks like the language of that victim, that's really the key is to get the person who you suspect as being a victim, with someone who can speak that language. And with this type of event coming in and people coming from all over the world, that will be that could be a challenge. But the diversity of this state lends to our advantage to be able to get speakers from all over to be able to work with these victims.
Okay, and for Chair Danielson, what role does funding, there's another question about funding, what role does funding and resource allocation play in ensuring smaller municipalities are equally prepared?
It's a very good question, and that question is a year and a half old. I was very concerned a year and a half ago, based upon the pattern of federal funding to not only the states, but to certain states versus other states. And we learned very quickly without the proper funding, it would fall apart. It's been reported that last year and then again this year, we have adequate funding from the federal government and the state. And they have zero concerns. They would always like more. But those decision makers from the federal agencies, their partner agencies, and all our state agencies, that they're more than ready to go. Like they could do this next month.
Okay, great. And for Senator Book for Kira, what opportunities do events like the World Cup create to strengthen long-term public policy beyond the event itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming up with legislation during this time period, helps create clear protocols and things that can make a real difference. I think, it's important to kind of use this as an opportunity to, one, inform the public, and two, create lasting legislation that, makes a difference and is effective.
Yeah, great. There's a question on technology from Mr. Waters. How is technology being used within transportation systems to enhance safety and situational awareness during high volume travel periods?
Yeah, we don't just use it for high volume travel periods. We use the technology. We use a system called Samsara, which allows us, we have 8 cameras on our buses. And through those 8 cameras, there are 4 inward-looking cameras and 4 outward-looking cameras. It gives us the opportunity to be able to observe what's going on. We can tap into those cameras if a driver says that he or she needs help or assistance to they know what's going on and assist them with a situation. but it's also recording 24/7. So what's taking place there, we can go back and look at it real time. So we have technology there to help protect the public and also help protect our employees. We don't want, with all the training we give our employees, we're not looking to make them law enforcement officers. We just want them to be able to observe and report what's taking place and then have the information to be able to support what they're telling law enforcement. And we can provide that to the local or state enforcement, any video or camera system that they need to be able to see what took place. And they can use that, which it has been done multiple times, to support the safety of our passengers and our employees.
Very good. I don't think I've ever heard of that technology since, Sarah. Not that I was looking for it, but okay. But it's good to know that it exists and that you're using it and that it's in place on an everyday regular basis. And that's very
Yeah.
comforting, also for our audience to know. Chief Caggiano, what role does community trust play in effective policing during high visibility events, and how is that built in advance?
Well, I think we do a great job in New Jersey building trust within our, and I think that starts very much at the local level. That starts with our with all of our agencies. We all work very hard to build the trust within the community that we serve, and the communities around us. Whether that be, I know for myself, I spend quite a bit of time, visiting with our community groups, our houses of worship, our schools. Like we do a lot of programs at the very low, basic local level, to establish those real solid community connections, and those connections are what builds trust. And this has been going on for years on end, building those relationships and building those partnerships. So, it's not something new to us. It's something we've been doing for many, many years. I've been a police officer for almost 30 years, and I remember my first chief that I got hired by, pushing that message that, get to know your community and get to be part of your community. So, this has been ingrained in law enforcement, especially here in New Jersey.
And Chair Danielson, a question for you. How can the state better integrate local community voices into policy decisions related to safety and preparedness for large-scale events?
Well, this event is extremely unique, but more common events, it's about working with your local agencies, your local political leaders, your local clergy, community activists, because you want that partnership between the event host, law enforcement, and the community so the vast majority of people are following the guidance, listening to instructions, and complying with orders for the common purpose of enjoying an event with a mutual purpose and benefit. And with that, elected officials have to understand also that nothing is successful without the correct funding. Leadership has to be proactive and intentional and honest. Fiscally, you have to fund it. And the community's got to be sincere in their intent to have a peaceful, successful event.
Okay, great. Any other? I think I may have one more here, and then we can just have closing points unless there are other questions in the chat. For Kiara, how can New Jersey ensure consistency and safety standards and preparedness efforts across counties
I mean, I
and
think
regions?
a lot of that is, again, coordination, communication, having open dialogues with all your different mayors, all your different local leaders. I think a lot of that goes into, when we're drafting these kind of bills and legislation, again, having open communication across the aisle, making sure everything's bipartisan, listening to all different types of agencies if they have concerns, if they have amendments. And I think it's just listening to law enforcement as well, preparedness. No one's going to be have better preparedness efforts than them. Um, but yeah, I think having an open dialogue is super important, making sure you're hearing out everybody um, in order to kind of, have something that's balanced.
Mhm.
And then I think, again, having an open dialogue across countries and regions is important. Talking with your local representatives,
Mhm.
yeah, and just keeping that open dialogue and coordination.
And I guess this can be for anyone. Is there any signage on site to alert event attendees to what they should look for? I guess in some of these games, maybe the last year's practice games, any signage,
Yeah,
any
I can
information?
speak to some of that. I can't speak to it. I won't go into any depth because I don't want to speak out of turn. But last year there was some signage in reference especially to human trafficking, but it was kind of the normal signage that is up in some of the train stations. There is a stuff that has come out from the U.S. Department of Transportation's Human Trafficking Advisory Committee, where you see more of the digital signs that speak to human trafficking now. So those were out, and I saw more of those last year during the soccer games. And I won't say I'm pretty sure, I'm assuming that we're going to see that same uptick for this year's event when it comes into play.
Okay. Anyone else? Maybe Chief Caggiano, any thoughts there on?
Yeah, I don't know this is an important crime that occurs, and certainly that messaging will I'm positive that messaging will be out,
Mhm.
not only in around the games, but around the public in general to be aware of this type of crimes that do occur. So
Mhm.
I can
And
confirm, ma'am, that the signage will be all over the state.
okay. No, that's great. Billboards, I would imagine, billboards and maybe bathrooms.
Billboards, digital media, literally almost every platform they intend to make communication investments on.
Okay. Excellent to know. And a question on volunteer opportunities. Are there volunteer opportunities available to assist organizations in various ways during the games in the New Jersey area? I know that there were volunteer opportunities working for the World Cup, maybe just being there on site. But I guess I don't know any thoughts on what you've heard or in your spaces on volunteer opportunities during the games. Not that you're aware of. Okay. And then how do you measure success at the end of the World Cup? I mean, I guess this goes to some of your previous experiences, large scale events, concerts, games, and so forth. How do you measure success?
From the private sector, I would say I wouldn't say necessarily measure success when you feel comfortable that you have accomplished moving people as safe first of all, then getting them to their final destination in a timely fashion that met and was within the standards that you said you would be able to provide for that event. So, prime example, you said large concerts when Beyonce and other large concerts would take place. That was the key focus for us to be able to move everyone that had a ticket, move them safely productively and as quickly as possible based off of the circumstances we put into play. But I don't think you can just say that this is success. You got to look at it on an individual basis as you go through that process.
Okay. Anyone else want to jump in here?
I think just seeing that the games happen safely, and the public gets to enjoy the games and know that their safety is being well taken care of during this time, especially.
Hmm. Okay, I guess we have time for one more before we close out. Will there be available multidisciplinary teams to respond to situations where there are human trafficking victims likely present? Will there be available multidisciplinary teams? I'm not sure, to respond to situations where there are human trafficking victims present.
I think the best way to answer that question is the crime of human trafficking and the law enforcement response is very much victim centered.
Mm.
The highest priority is getting that victim to a safe place and getting the needs of that victim taken care of. So, we already have in place, the ability to reach out to the different social services and medical field that we need to, um, we already have those relationships and we already have those um, established long before, these games come in here. So we are very well prepared for these instances.
Okay, great. Anyone else would like to jump in here? Okay. Um, I guess my final question before we close, in 1 minute, if we can, what is the most important action or awareness point you would like to leave our audience with tonight? And we could start with you, Kiara, and just go around the table.
I think, it's important everybody stays educated and up to date. And I think it's important, if you have any questions, either reach out, you can reach out to law enforcement, you can reach out to your local senator, and we're all here to answer any questions and be a resource.
Thank you. Chair Danielson?
I'm so impressed by the preparedness of our state and our federal agencies. Uh, I'll tell you my attitude. My last question was, how can we best stay out of your way and help you further? They're so good at what they're doing. But listen, when you get this many people and this much money together in one small place, your risk of bad things happening goes higher. Um, so that they may, I mean, their success definition might be, hey, I'm just using my imagination. Only two people die, right? Only 50 people get trafficked. I don't know what their success definition is. I know what mine is, which includes America winning. No. um, but I think the public should say something if they see something. Otherwise, they should listen, follow instructions, keep their eyes and ears and their situational awareness, um, healthy, and enjoy the game. Regardless if they're watching it remotely or not.
Great. And Chief Caggiano?
I think that the simplest one for this is if you see something, say something. There's going to be plenty of law enforcement out, but everybody needs to be aware of their surroundings. Everybody needs to, be eyes and ears for us, and um, we're here for you. So if you see something, say something, so we can respond.
And Mr. Waters?
For me, the biggest thing is that the most important thing is that we make sure that we transport people safely to their final destination, and that if we see someone that has been held against their will, is that we provide the proper feedback to the right agency to be able to protect that individual and get them again safely. So the biggest focus for us, and I would want someone to remember, is like keep safety on the front burner. You hear a lot of people say safety first. What I'm asking my team to do is don't talk about it. Make sure we're about it, that we're about having safety first and we put action into play and we're proactive in what we do. That would be my ask.
Okay, great. I think I got everyone. Um, and thank you for and thank you for that. And so I think just the key is that we're just ensuring that there's communication and there's coordination. So the two C's there, and I think just a strong interconnection with all of our state agencies working together. So as we come to a close this evening, I want to thank our distinguished panelists for sharing their time and expertise and leadership with us. Your insights have helped us to be grounded in what matters most, and that's awareness, collaboration, and action. And I'd like to thank everyone who joined us tonight and giving us your time to have this engaging conversation. And it just reflects the importance that you and the shared commitment that you have in learning more about how New Jersey is keeping us safe during these exciting times. If there's one takeaway from tonight is that preparedness starts locally and awareness saves lives and collaboration is strengthening all of us. So each of us has a role to play in staying informed and sharing this knowledge with others will make us all successful. On behalf of the Junior Leagues of New Jersey State Public Affairs Committee, thank you so very much for being a part of this conversation and for your continued commitment to service and advocacy. Please stay informed. Please stay connected. I think someone put in the chat our Instagram at JLNJSPAC and our website, jlnjspac.org. So we encourage you to continue to follow us. I wanted to just ensure that we continue to be the leaders that we are within the Junior League. And thank you so very much for joining us and again being a part of this conversation. And thank you to our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
And
Victoria.
thank you. Thank you all. Good night.